Welcome to Sacred Magic. Violet is on a quest to bring sacredness back into our everyday experiences. Anyone can have an extraordinary life when they are able to tap into their sacred magic within. Violet and her guests will be sharing their divine passions, inspirations, and stories of connecting with their sacred magic. We are so happy you have joined us today. Let's get started with your host, the magical creator of Discover Your Spiritual Gifts, Vialet Rayne.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Sacred Magic Podcast. I'm your host, Vialet B Rayne, and my guest today is Jennifer Lonnberg. She's a spiritual mentor, an energetic strategist, author, and a go-to guide for soul-led leaders who are ready to step into prosperity, purpose, and unapologetic abundance. She's known for her work in spiritual development, mindset coaching, and energy healing. Jennifer often focuses on helping individuals connect with their higher selves, overcome emotional blocks, and develop a deeper understanding of their spiritual gifts. She's written books and offers various courses and programs, often blending practical life coaching with spiritual and intuitive practices. Many of her teachings revolve around personal empowerment, self-love, and integrating spiritual practices into her everyday life. I love Miss Jennifer. You know, when I first opened my center, she was a reader at my center long ago, and I didn't get to have her for very long, for she went off traveling, and it was like, oh my goodness, I miss her. She's out traveling in the United States. So it's always good when we can reconnect and come back around. So I'm sure your life has taken many turns since I saw you. So what are you working on? What are some of the things that you've been guided to today? Because I know there have been many shifts, just like I have experienced. I'm sure you're experiencing them as well.
Yeah. Well, first, I want to say thank you. Thank you for doing the work you do, and thank you for a platform like this. It's so important to understand that spirituality really needs to be integrated into life, right? Because we're really being called to lead a more soul-led life, right? Like, we have to be in tune with all of the twists and turns, so to speak, and understand that really everything is divine if you're allowing yourself to live that way. And coming to your center was one of those things for me, right? That was one of the catalysts to say, okay, let's step into this work in a bigger way. And it was so funny because that weekend I had so many other things that needed my attention, but I felt such an impression from spirit that I needed to be there. And I'm so grateful that I did, because I got to meet you and I got to meet a bunch of other people that were there working. And it's led to some really amazing connections with people who are truly doing spiritual work and being the light bringers, the light workers, the people who are anchoring in light to the planet, shedding light to all the chaos and stuff that we're in this world. So thank you for doing that, Violet. I appreciate you so much. I love when I get to see all of the things that you're doing. So I appreciate that with all my heart, that you do what you do, and then giving people like me a platform to be able to speak to and really share that it's real, right? Like all of this stuff is real. There's real life. And it's funny, when we had met, I've always had spiritual sight. I've always had spiritual gifts. And I had been through some stuff a few years before that, to where I really was like, okay, you did this to me, show me what to do or take it away. And then things just started lining up. And the more I became, I want to say spiritually integrated, the more I became really integrated and understanding that if you pray for divine direction, you will get it. The thing is to not have fear when you get it, because sometimes it's really scary, like selling your house and buying an RV and traveling across the country. But that's what happened. And we had already had the RV when I met you, because we had been led to sell our house, and we were like, we don't know where we're going to go. So we got an RV to be in the in-between time. And that's turned into how many years later we're still doing this. And I think it's been 8 years.
Yeah, it's been a long time. Yeah.
And it's interesting. We travel for my husband's job. So wherever his jobs are or where we go, but there's always some spiritual thread that shows up while we're there, or because we're there, or something to that. Like everywhere we go, it's always there's a divine, either I've met people or I've been able to go to like spiritual shows or like expos and things like that. Like it's been an amazing period of time of learning to trust in divine flow and literally saying, okay, I'm just going to live spirit led, and wherever it takes me, I know that it's on purpose. And it's been interesting for sure.
Well, that takes lots of courage and lots of trust to be able to do that, because a lot of people are being guided, nudged, pushed sometimes into certain directions that really a lot of times their fear comes up and they don't move forward. They get stuck because spirit's trying to guide them to something better, and their fear is keeping them from moving through that energy to get to the other side. So kudos and courage that you have to really do that and be guided, because a lot of people, that's very frightening and scary to do that. Imagine selling your home, getting an RV and not knowing where home's going to be and just going with the flow. I mean, that takes a lot of trust and courage to be able to do that.
Well, it took some tears. I'm not gonna lie. Like when that happened, I grappled with it for probably a couple weeks. Because I honestly thought that was going to be the house that we like had our grandkids come to. And like, I really thought that was the place we were going to be forever. But then, I just had such an impression that we were supposed to sell the house, and I didn't know what was coming next. But the more that I let go and the more that I stay in divine alignment, the easier life has gotten. Now, it isn't, I mean, sometimes there's moments where I'm like, this is crazy. Like, what are we doing on the road? But then something will happen and it'll be like, okay, now I know. Now I know why we're on the road, because everything always lines up just the way it should. And I know eventually we'll be back in a permanent house. I just don't know when or where that will be. We have family still in Southeast Colorado. We have family in Missouri. So like we have family in Kansas. So it just depends like on what happens, and who knows what's going to happen in the next few years, right? But the trust thing is huge. And I see so many people who block themselves from what would be so much better if they would have the faith to step out. And I've seen other people who just stay stuck, right? They just stay stuck where they are. They're afraid to make any move. So they stay living in fear all the time. And then I've seen other people where literally they're like, "Oh, I'm afraid to like quit this job," for example. "I'm afraid to quit this job. What'll happen?" And then they get fired, so they have no choice. And it's like, well, it might have been easier if you would have followed your nudge and actually quit when spirit was guiding you to do that, instead of waiting for the door to shut. But I mean, it all ends up being as it should be. And we always have free will, right? So I think if people can start learning how to use discernment over fear, that is a huge thing. So one of the things I like to teach people is, are you reacting or are you responding? And the difference is that knee-jerk reaction, that fear that holds you back, whereas a response is sit with it, pray on it, journal on it, whatever you need to do, and then make a discerning choice of, yes, I'm really feeling led, God's leading me this way, I'm going to trust it, or my guides and angels, however you want to feel like you're getting that information. Like if you do that and you can sit with it and do it afraid, right? Because it's not like the fear actually goes away completely, but you have to take that leap of living faith over fear. And when you do that, it's amazing, Violet. Like the things that I've experienced, had I not had the faith to just trust what I felt was coming, there was so many things that we were able to like help family with, and things that we were able to experience. And then it was funny because I just saw recently like a Facebook memory, how memories will pop up. And I was like, oh my goodness, we manifested this because we had talked about, wouldn't it be fun to like go and travel? And we had watched for a while that Diners, Drive-In and Dives, or whatever that show was that was on TV. I don't even know if it's still on, but it was like, we should go visit all of those little places just to see. And we've actually done that. So I'm like, in a way, we kind of manifested this beautiful experience of being able to travel and experience all of the different places. Like it's mostly in the United States, most of the jobs that he has, but we've been everywhere from North Dakota, every state, all the way down to Texas, over to New Mexico, as far east as like Virginia and North Carolina and Georgia. Um, we were just in Michigan again. Like we've been in Michigan a couple times. So we've been to all the Great Lakes and we've seen that Niagara Falls. Like there's so many different things that we've gotten to experience that we wouldn't have otherwise. So it's been a really interesting few years and it's still continuing. Like I don't think we'll be quote unquote retiring to a certain like to find a solid house for a while, but I know that we will eventually. But it's just being able to embrace life as it comes. And I have grandbabies now, so like it's not like I would love to just buy a house next door, right? But I'm like, it's not really, it's not what I feel is in the best interest of everybody right now. Do I understand it? No. Do I wish it was different? Maybe. But I'm going to embrace what's showing up and trust the divine experience that's coming through. And I know that when it's time to do that, we will.
Well, I think all of us at one point or another have been pushed to do something that we really didn't want to do or didn't understand. For me,
Mhm.
moving to Colorado was not on my bucket list. I don't like the snow, I don't like the winters. And I really fought it for 2 years. I'm like everybody else. I dug my feet in and said, nope, I'm not living in Colorado. I'm not moving back there. I did that once. It's not my place. I love the people here. I just don't like the winters. And it's a lot of winter here. I mean, you don't get a
Mhm.
lot of spring and summer, which are
Right.
my favorites. But Spirit was adamant that this is where I needed to be. And so I moved back here in 2011. And when I came to the state, I said, I'll be here 2 weeks and then I'm out. I'm leaving. I'm not staying. I'm still here. Still
Just
here.
kidding.
Spirit has this way of going, really? Let's see what that looks like. And it is sometimes you just gotta trust. I mean, I kind of understand why I'm here, what my purpose was in being here. This was the place that I needed to land to do what I'm doing today. I mean,
Mhm.
I get that, but like you, I would love to be in Florida. If I had my biggest wish, it would be a house in Florida on the beach. I'd be putting my feet in the sand every day. But I also know that that's not realistic right now, that this is where I need to be. And so I've been telling my general counsel that my next lifetime, I want to live next to the beach. I want to be born next to the beach. That is my request so that I can hopefully stay there. But one of the things that you've been saying, which is very different than others, and I just want to point that out. If you've noticed, she talks about prayer. She talks about God. She talks about faith. Because I know Jennifer has a strong Christian background, faith in what she does. And most people that do this work or look at us don't imagine that we could have a foundation of Christian faith within what we do. And so that's one of the things that I love about her is, a lot of people are terrified when you say psychic or intuitive or all those words, right? Many of us were taught in our faiths and beliefs that is wrong, blah, 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 blah. And to be able to sit in it because I really have that foundation of Christian faith too, because that's where I spent most of my life. Do I
Mhm.
believe everything I was taught? No, it didn't feel right or resonate. But there are elements of it that I do believe and I strongly understand and I'm strongly aligned with. And I love that about Jennifer because out of all the people I've talked to on the show, very few talk about prayer, faith, God in their conversations. And that's what makes her such a beautiful soul that I love connecting with. So I had to point that out, Miss Jennifer. So
Well, thank you. Thank you, Violet. I love that. And it's so interesting too because there's such a similarity between meditation and prayer, right? So some people will say, "Oh, well, I'll meditate, but I don't pray." But you kind of are. Like I think the thing is there's so much dogma around it that it really distorts the truth of what comes through because honestly, I channel too. And that's a weird thing to say as a Christian that you channel, but I have and I've gotten information and messages from Jesus from Mary Magdalene, from Mother Mary, and also Pleiadians and Arcturians. And so, but the instant, let me try to make a point of this. The point that I want to make is that when they come through, it's always about love. Like the frequency that comes through is the highest and best divine love and light for all. And I know that you resonate with the high order of Melchizedek, and I've actually channeled from Melchizedek as well. And if you look biblically, I don't like to get all biblical because I don't feel like I'm a Bible teacher, but I do have the Christian background. A high order of Melchizedek comes before the Bible because Melchizedek was a very important figure, but he's barely mentioned, but he disrupted a lot because of the way that he proclaimed Jesus as a rabbi, which wasn't done because he wasn't in the right family lineage. Do you know what I mean? So there's things like that. And then there's places throughout the Bible that I don't want to say that they've been mistaught because I would say most of the people are doing what they think is right, right? So this is just the same with any spiritual kind of, it doesn't matter what kind of spiritual outlet you're looking at or what kind of church you're going to, they're still human. So things are going to be misrepresented maybe or misunderstood. And it always comes through our own filter. So for me, when I fully accepted the gifts, and this is when I was like, okay, God, you did this to me, so show me what to do or take it away. And I had asked for years for it to be taken away. But when I finally said, show me what I'm supposed to do with this, it was such a shift in the way that I understood everything. And then I had seen spirit my whole life, but it became more vivid and more clear. And the messages came through much more profound. And I would always, I have a guy now even that I'll post something and he goes, this is biblical truth again. And I'm not trying to be biblically accurate, especially when I'm channeling the Pleiadians or the Arcturians or the celestial council, I call it, because I have a council myself that I work with. And it's all kinds of celestial beings. There's angels, Jesus is there, Melchizedek is there, Metatron, Archangel Metatron is there, and there's also galactic beings that are there. And so I don't try to intentionally be biblical, but there's truth in there that I feel like has either been hidden or misunderstood because it is so galactic in nature.
Mm-hmm. It
So,
is. And if you look through religions, philosophies, cultures, all that, there's threads of commonalities that weave through all of it that represent truth. And then on the other side of either side of that is where people have filtered through their own experiences what they believe is being said, declared, given to us, and it is filtered through their own systems. But I love that about you, Jennifer, is not many people can connect the dots that you can have a strong faith and be doing this work as well. And so that is not a common element. So I love pointing that out, that it's important to know that, because I think people that are struggling with their faith but getting intuitive hits that scare them, this is an opportunity to say, it's okay, right?
mhm,
I believe everyone was born with a navigation system that we call intuition or psychic gifts that allow us to navigate this experience.
mhm,
When you shut them down or ignore them or push them away, it just makes your experience harder.
mhm,
When you're able to lean in and understand that they are treasures, golden nuggets, and gifts given to you so that you can navigate this experience, doesn't mean that we don't have challenges, obstacles, difficulties, because that's what this experience is about.
mhm,
It's about how do you respond to it? How do you move through it? How do you get through it? Because that's where the growth comes from. But when we can trust that navigation and the wisdom within, then we're able to have make easier choices and
mhm,
make right choices that are in alignment with who we are. And I think alignment's important because sometimes we always get out of alignment. And so when you're in alignment, things seem to be a little easier or more understandable, or you're in a better place. So you wanted to talk about today how to create a life that you love. What does that mean?
Well, it's interesting because it'll mean something different for everybody, right? But just like what you were speaking to, we have to understand what divine alignment is for us. We have to understand that we have sovereignty over ourselves. We have sovereignty over our choices. We have sovereignty over the way that we want to embrace spiritual gifts, right? We have sovereignty in choice. And so when we can learn to know what we want and why we want it, if we can learn to break through old dogmas and old fears, and I mean dogma across the board. I don't mean that in like a spiritual religious dogma kind of way. I mean like in your life, what are things that are dogmatic? Like I have a really good story about this. It was like a roast. And this late, and I don't remember where I heard this, but it was kind of like a little joke. But I'm like, oh my God, there's such beauty in this story where the lady would just cut off part of a roast. And so then the daughter started, every time she made a roast, she would cut the end off. And then the granddaughter was doing it. And her husband, finally, at the granddaughter's level, the husband asked, why do you always cut off the end of the roast? And she goes, I don't know. That's just the way we've always done it. So they end up calling mom, and mom calls grandma, and then they all find out that grandma's like, I didn't have a big enough pan to put a big roast in, so I had to cut part of it off. So it didn't have anything to do with anything other than that pan didn't fit, right? So they had carried on that dogma the whole time and not even understanding really why they did it. So when I talk about creating a life you love, for me, it's always about if you feel like you're not living the life that you really want, if you feel like something's missing or you feel like you're off kilter or you feel like you're not where you're supposed to be, that's usually a sign that's asking us to come into divine alignment. Now, everybody's here for a different purpose, right? It doesn't matter. I always say it doesn't matter if you're a bartender or a brain surgeon, whatever you're called to do. If you're a brain surgeon because you love medicine and you're fascinated with it and that's what you're called to do, that's absolutely what you should do. But if you're being a brain surgeon because that's what you've been told you're supposed to do, then you're not in divine alignment. Now, it could cross over and be both. Okay, that would be like a rarity, but it's learning to do the things within your life that you feel like you're called to do, and then allowing yourself to start understanding what is the programming I have around this. So the mindset, the thoughts, the things you should do. Like what are the programming that you have that you've heard since you were little that you should do this? And then what are the patterns that you're in? Like what patterns do you have that are personal to you? Like bad habits, good habits, just understanding the way you work and the patterns that you have, and then breaking paradigms, because we're kind of all stuck in a paradigm of this is the way life is supposed to be. But what if it's not? What if there's something that you're being called to that doesn't fit in the paradigm that you have or that you've been raised in? And so it's learning to ask the questions for yourself so that you can really learn to know who you are and then be able to live that out, because we are all called to a special purpose. We all do have a special meaning of why we're here. It may be something we're here to learn. It may be something we're here to do. It could be a combination of both. But also, like, I think people tend to think that if they have an important job, that makes them important, but it doesn't. It's when you're doing what you know you're good at, that's what makes you good. And that's where divine abundance and prosperity and living in divine alignment and really creating a life you love comes into play.
I love that. I love that because we create our reality. And when we understand, and some people don't like that statement, you create your reality. And they're like, I would never create this for myself. You are creating your reality. If you're constantly thinking about everything that's wrong in your life, then everything's going to be wrong in your life. That's exactly how this works, because the universe doesn't judge, doesn't filter what you're asking for. They're like, okay, granted. Universe is always saying yes to whatever you're thinking. So if you're thinking life is tough, life is awful, life is this, life is that, and it's all negative, you're going to just continue to create that. Now, I also understand that if you've done that most of your life, getting out of that cycle, that hamster wheel, can be difficult, right? It can be hard to do because it's going to take work. It's going to take lots of work and reprogramming or resetting that energy. And that can be tough, because if that's all you've ever known, you don't know anything else. And so that's when that saying comes in and people look at me and go, are you telling me to fake it till I make it? Yep, that's exactly what I'm saying, that life is great. Life is wonderful. You need to get that emotion in there, that it's absolutely amazing. Because when you do that, there's big shifts that come, because the universe is now like, oh, so now she wants something else. So let's shift or change that. That's just an easy, simple process, but it is not as simple as it sounds. It can be very hard, especially when you're sad, depressed, upset. It's hard to get out of that. And so I always tell people, when you get into those places, go to a ceramic class and paint, go swim, go do something fun, out of the ordinary, get out of that cycle and do something that's going to get you thinking about something more positive. And it takes work. It takes real work to be able to do that. One of your other things to talk about today was limiting beliefs. And I love that, because we all carry them. So how do we recognize that we have limited beliefs?
Well, so the point you were making is exactly perfect to that, because it is, we get in this habit of how we think and how we talk and what we speak, and the universe works on frequency, right? So if you're emitting this frequency of negativity, that's what's going to show up. So like you were talking about the quote unquote fake it till you make it, when you say those things, here's where the work comes in, right? Because you might say them and in your mind, you're thinking, this is all crap. Like, this is not really, this is not how I feel. But the thing is, when you say, I'm happy, and you're going, I'm really not, I'm kind of, pissy today or whatever, then it's going to show you. And the work there is to go, why? Right? And the limiting beliefs are the same. Life is miserable. Why do you believe that? Where does that come from? And the work is then figuring out, why do I believe that? Where did I first learn it? Why do I go to that as my default? And what would I like to believe instead of that? Because if you're saying life is crap and then you're trying to say, oh, I'm so happy, that's a total disconnect. So the fake it till you make it is great, because if you're trying to say positive affirmations and they're not working, that's actually where the work is to see, well, why can I not believe that? So that's where the inner work comes. And it always, to me, it always starts in your brain. And our brain creates these neural pathways. And the neural pathways are almost like a railroad track. You start thinking something long enough, it makes a track, or better yet, a dirt road, right? Because when you're driving down a dirt road, if everybody drives a dirt road the same way, you get ruts in the road. It's really easy to stay in those ruts. And it takes effort to pull yourself out. And it's the same thing with the neural pathways we create in our brain. So when you're trying to create a new thought, there will be resistance, because it's used to traveling down that one neural pathway. So to change those neural pathways, you almost have to consciously decide to change it. And then that's where the work comes in. And then if you want to get everything integrated, because I'm like, it has to be body, mind, heart, soul, all working congruently. So when your mind is trying to think a new thought, you're going to feel resistance also in your body. And then that's going to allow you to see, what do I need to release in my body that's keeping me from this? All of the work can start from looking to see, what are your limiting beliefs, and why do you think those beliefs?
Yeah, because anytime we're uncomfortable,
Mm-hmm.
that's where the work is. When you can get really uncomfortable, that means you're moving towards something that's probably really beautiful, but you got to be uncomfortable first to really understand what that is.
Mm-hmm.
Those people that have courage, that are able to move through that really uncomfortable place, really gain a lot on the other side. But being uncomfortable means you're fixing to bring in something really beautiful or something really great, if you can keep moving through it and asking all those questions. Why does this feel so uncomfortable? Why does this not feel in alignment? What is going on here that I need to know? And if you ask those questions, Spirit's going to help you find those answers. They're going to pop up in some way, some form. It might be a song. It might be a conversation that somebody's having in the lane next to you at the grocery store. It can come through in so many different ways that if you really pay attention, you'll be like, oh, that was my answer.
Mm-hmm.
If I had to just, if you just pause long enough, they're going to help you find that answer. Jennifer, it has been amazing. You and I could talk for hours and hours. We loved to get together and talk, but take a moment and share with the audience some of the things that you offer, what you offer to your clients, and some of the things that you're working on.
So one of my favorite things is my membership. It's called the Ascension Club. And it's such a powerful place if you do the work, right? Just like we're talking about, it all comes down to you. But the Ascension Club membership, I love it. It's kind of the heart and soul of what I do. I also have some books, and then I absolutely love private coaching because that's where we can get really into the nitty gritty and really make a big difference. So the VIP one-on-one coaching is fabulous. And I incorporate all of the things, right? So it's energy healing. It's because I'm a Reiki master as well. It's also, what are the beliefs that you're working with? I'm a life coach. So I blend all of the things. I blend my own experience. I blend talking with your guides and my guides to help you through whatever it is that you're wanting to work through. The mindset work is huge. And then the energy work, because a lot of times some of the patterns that I see are actually past life imprints or energy that's residual, and it's showing up to be cleared because we're really moving into a new experience across the board in this human experience. And we've done a lot of work collectively to where those kind of things are showing up and so much easier to move through and clear through. So it's always the individual thing, but so the membership I love, VIP coaching I love, my books are fantastic, I think. And then I've been doing a lot of speaking. I'm going to be speaking at different events here. Recently, I've been back into speaking at events because obviously the world's opening up a little bit more than it was after being shut down for so long. It's all of the things. I love them all.
And we love you too. And I'm so glad that you offer things. And, she's traveling around, so her stuff is virtual. So it's very easy to kind of connect and be with her, unless she's in your area. If you get lucky enough and she's in your area, you could probably do some in person. But just to be able to connect with her on those platforms would be amazing. Jennifer, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. It's been fantastic, and I do appreciate you so much and the work you do. So thank you for that.
Oh, well, thank you for all the work you do as well, because I pay attention to what's going on with you, and I'm sure you pay attention to what is going on with me as well. We're very connected on our social platforms, so I love that. So I can see kind of what's going on. And those of you that are listening, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this podcast. I hope you'll like, comment, and follow us on your favorite platforms. That really helps our audience growth, and share with a friend if we are talking about something that you think others would be very interested in. I wish you a sacred and magical week, and I hope to see you really soon. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thank you for joining us. To find out more about Vialet, head over to discoveryourspiritualgifts.com. You can also send a personal message to Vialet through email, violet@discoveryourspiritualgifts.com. If you love the show, subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or Spotify. Until next time, remember, we are meant to have abundant and joyful lives. We hope to see you soon at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts.